So I had more of, I think, a curiosity around it that sort of curated this interest in what it was to be a part of making movies and TV. Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? I'm so sorry I'm late.
Oh, no worries. And I
Okay.
didn't have much going on anyway, so
Okay, cool. I was
silly
just
waiting, no
running.
problem.
Turns out it's the worst. I forgot that it's like the worst time to be running errands, like weekday afternoons. Just
I always
bad.
do that. What did you end up doing? What errands did you have?
Had to go get a couple groceries.
Mhm.
Um, my partner wanted to go get some weights from Marshall's.
Okay, well, that I didn't know that's a
Well,
spot for weights, but good to know.
it is because it's all like you get the deals on everything,
Yeah,
and
I
so
love Marshalls. Marshalls, TJ Maxx, that's the spot.
it really is. But the thing is that once you're in there, you're in there. You gotta just look at the stuff. And
Always.
it's like, um, yeah, just like groceries and that kind of stuff. I just like really didn't realize that it was gonna be those long lines. So it tacks on like an extra, 15, 20 minutes to the time you're planning on being out. But anyway, so sorry
Makes
about that.
sense. No, no worries. Gotta take care of stuff. Did you end up getting the weights then? And
He got the weights.
okay, well, that's the most important
He
thing
got
in
like
the end.
two 10-pounders for like $12.
Right, which would cost anywhere else probably triple that, you know?
Thanks, Marshalls.
There you go. And good shout out there. Well, I'm glad you can join and we can chat because I have a ton of questions to ask you about this film because I don't even know how to describe this movie because it is eclectic, it's offbeat, it's eccentric, it's weird, it's everything, artistic.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what was your first impression? Because I'd imagine reading the script for it, but when you see it visually, it's a whole like a world that's painted on literally. What was your impression initially of reading it and then kind of being on set and seeing this kind of world of misfits, in a sense, this kind of exotic, beautiful, ugly land,
Yeah, I mean, I had grown up spending a lot of time in the California desert, driving
Mm,
through it, exploring it. Um, my dad used to take photographs as a kid, so we would just kind of go around to different towns and he would just ask people if he could photograph them. And so
interesting.
spent a lot of my childhood just kind of meeting people. And so that was the sort of neat connection to being able to do this film was that um I sort of had some experience as a kid, just sort of being brought through that, of just being like, okay, this is your town, this is your house, I'm here as a visitor, and just being able to like meet our friends who live in Slab City and just like um really take in what their life was there, and just the sense of community that they have there, and a sense of belonging that they feel there. It was just really, really special to be able to kind
Hmm.
of see that and revisit that from a different perspective as an adult. And then as far as the script goes, um, it's really visual to read. Um, it's one of the few movies that I've gotten to see the finished product of, and visually it's similar to what you see when you're reading it. When you're
Hmm.
reading something, when you're reading a book or a script, you kind of have this little movie going on in your own head, and rarely is that movie going on in your own head how finished products actually
Right.
turn out. And yet in this case, it was kind of amazing to be able to see it and be like, oh shit, this is what I saw. Like,
That must
um,
be detailed writing because this movie is the cinematography is amazing. I mean, the colors and the lighting of this film and just making the desert look, like I said, something so bland look kind of beautiful in a lot of ways. So it's really interesting to see that you imagined and saw it through the script. I can only imagine how detailed it must have been then for you to envision and see that.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, Carrie wrote a wild, wild script.
Hmm.
And it was a wild movie, and that was kind of its own thing, how it turned out. but the script on its own, just as like a piece of work that is like coming out of somebody that just sort of needed to like vomit it out. It is really like, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful to read. So I'm glad it can read that way on screen too. Uh yeah, wild.
I loved also, I don't know if you got to see the full version of music on it and the soundtrack. I kept on having my Shazam with me in my hand and trying to constantly, every song, trying to get it because I thought the soundtrack was awesome for it too and very fitting. You know, some
Yeah.
just different genres of music. I thought that was also that made the movie really kind of it blended in with the script too in itself.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's all very kind of fitting to the transitional nature of the story itself.
Hmm. I like the cast is all not only kind of in a similar age range, but they all everyone kind of fits together. I'd imagine you all probably hung out together or like spent some time because it seems like there needs to be a relationship not only on screen, but I'd imagine be off screen too to kind of make it come to reality. These people are kind of living basically with each other and they only have each other in a lot of ways too. So tell me what was like the relationship with the actors, your fellow co-stars in the film. Was it kind of offset?
It it was really, I got there a couple of weeks after they had started. So
Hmm.
they'd already kind of all formed a little bit of a bond and had started working. Um and they were so inviting. It's always a little bit scary to go onto a project a bit later, but because it was such a teeny tiny operation, it really was just like, come join, join in, join the crowd. It was just, I don't know, it was just really like nice and welcoming. And we did all see a lot of each other when we weren't working, and when we were working we were just all kind of hanging out in the same area a lot. um it was funny because Sam, who plays Blake, she plays one of the main characters. At the
Hmm.
time I didn't know this, but she, because my character is a little bit more of an antagonist, she's one of the worst characters, I guess. She was sort of trying to play into that in our like reality too.
Hmm.
And so she tended to just sort of avoid me like on and off set, um so that she could kind of get into that more. And I didn't know that when we were shooting, and now we live in New York pretty close to each other, and we're pretty solid friends. But I just found that out, and I was like, oh, that's why you were being like that when we were, okay, I get it now. Because I just kind of thought that she wasn't really feeling me on set, and I was like, all right,
Yeah.
that's fine, gotta get to know each other, it's cool. But yeah, that was funny.
Oh, that's funny. That's a nice little story there behind the scenes. I got it. I'm no fashionista by any means. I mean, look how I'm dressed, but your
Look at
outfits in this.
that.
Oh yeah, I like that. I like that. It's very casual, and I love that. Actually, but the outfits in the movie were something for you. I mean, you had that. You had the fishnets you were rocking. You had that little fuzzy kind of sweater. You had that red kind of outfit with those Daisy Dukes. I'm like, stop teasing here because you're looking sexy and everything. But you even made that Hamburglar outfit, with the stripes look good. It was amazing. I'm curious about the selection of these outfits because you rocked them so well. Was it the costume designer? Were these kind of your ideas and choices? Because they really stood out and it was awesome.
I think it was a little bit of everybody. I mean, our wardrobe designer it was really just kind of a mishmash of stuff I had and stuff she had. That it I don't really know how it all came together, but um yeah, it was just, I wish I could say more about sort of the process of like finding that, but it really was just kind of like, what's gonna be casual enough that it's not gonna be too like out of place, and
Mhm.
also what's going to be a way for this character to really like represent this sort of otherworldly um dis-ease, I guess. If that makes any sense. But yeah, I don't
Those
really know how
outfits,
to
I'm
put it
telling
in.
you, they had personality. Literally, they gave your character a person just by looking at it. It was amazing because they caught me like right away. I noticed them because they were so kind of interesting, and
Yeah,
different
it
from
was
each other
fun.
from scene to scene.
It was fun to just kind of try shit on and go with it.
That's awesome. I loved it. So wanted to point that out. You know, I'm always curious. You come from obviously, a family of acting and performers, and I'm always curious. Now we see kind of more in the industry. You have so many like there's a new generation in a sense. Like you have like Patrick Schwarzenegger coming on, you have Sylvester Stallone's daughter, and going on and on. Like a lot of the kids of a lot of famous actors are kind of starting their careers now, and it's like this new generation in a sense. I'm curious. Coming up in the industry, was it something you always wanted to do? Did you always wanted to act, or is it something that grew on you over the years? Tell me kind of that approach. Did you know you're going to do this in a sense?
Um, no, I didn't know. I I was always kind of curious about it. But I also think the generational thing, like you could say that about so many generations
That's true.
and also so many different industries. You know what I mean? It's one of those things that is feels kind of hard to avoid when that's something that you know. Um and yet it wasn't something I grew up sort of distanced from it. Um, so I had more of, I think, a curiosity around it that sort of curated this interest in what it was to be a part of making movies and TV. And I think that curiosity is sort of sustained today. Um, I I think curiosity kind of keeps it interesting rather than this need to like go, go, go. I want these roles. I want to do this. I'm kind
Mhm.
of enjoying just seeing how the path continues and being able to be useful as people can find me useful, and being able to tell stories. So, yeah.
I love that because even doing what I do, I think curiosity is like one of the most important things. So if you're curious about things, it gives so much more depth and you put in so much more to something because you're
Mhm.
not doing it because you have to do it, right? You're doing it because you're interested and it sparks something in you to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot that you base things on curiosity, not in a sense, in a need, right? When you do things for need or in a sense, money or whatever it is, it's a different mindset. But when you can sit back and be like, I technically don't have to do this, but I do it because it interests me and I want to do it. And I'm doing
Mhm.
it for the reasons that drew me into it. It's a whole different outlook.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you have conversations with your dad or grandfather or anyone kind of in your family about acting in a sense? Or do you, in a sense, do you always want to maybe have a continued family lineage or want to make your own mark in a lot of ways too, that you just want to be kind of your own separate person, which you are, and do things in a sense your own way, without being having to be tied into to like a family history of it.
Hmm. Um, we don't we don't talk about it a lot.
Hmm.
I think it's just something that's there. I'm always interested to hear about it and learn. Um, but uh, what else? Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a hard question to answer because I think it's like, I had the option of changing my name and being able to like separate from that line a little bit, and I chose not to because it's something that I'm um that I'm proud of and happy to say, isn't this great what they can do? And I think it really is like I've been shown that names can sometimes get you in the door, but it's not necessarily going to get you the job. I started auditioning and I didn't get a job for 4 years.
Mhm.
I got my first job after like God knows how many auditions, but and thank God because I was not good. Um and I do think it's just one of those things where like you're bound to sort of make your own um impact because of the things that you, I don't know if impact is the right word. You're bound to just sort of create your own path within it.
Mhm.
Um and yet it's also something that people are going to connect to, you know, your family or whatever, and that's fine and okay. I don't know. I don't have a great way to answer that question. Because I don't think about it that much because it's just something that I'm kind of doing.
I think
Um,
that answers it in itself. You know what I mean? I think you're just kind of taking it your own approach, what feels right and natural. I think that's
mhm.
probably the best way to do it, you know, not putting any pressure on anything and just going with what feels right and normal to you.
Yeah,
I think that's
yeah,
a really good way.
yeah.
I wanted to ask you before we kind of start wrapping up here. Um, Yellowstone, I'm hearing about it constantly. I'm getting this, the screeners, the DVDs. I have not seen it yet, but I've been told by everyone to see it. What am I missing out? Because that's like on my definitely on one of my short list to what watch because it's so hard to watch everything. Whoever says they watch every show on TV is lying. First of all, they don't see everything.
I
But
know.
tell me about Yellowstone, working on it, and what am I missing out? What's the really the experience like to be on a show like that?
Yeah, Yellowstone's a lot to like start watching.
Hmm.
There's just a lot happening. I even just think season like getting through season one, every episode feels like a full movie just because of the quality and just like you finish an episode and you're like, there's more of this. But just really incredible like acting and it's just a really fun, it's a really like fun and interesting story, I guess. And who doesn't enjoy watching Kevin Costner sneer at people?
Right.
But yeah, Yellowstone is awesome. Highly, highly recommend. Very stoked to be a part of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you got to watch it though.
I am. No, it's on my short list.
It's an event.
I got the DVDs. Paramount sending them to me just kind of on my shelf, but I'm like, where am I going to get around to it? But now, you know, watching the Globes and seeing the talk more about, I'm like, okay, I have to already. And I've had even friends tell me to get into it. So now it's like a perfect opportunity to ask you, you know, since you're part of this show, and I'm pretty sold already. So
Good. Yeah, do it.
wanted to kind of, I always like asking what are some of, aside from acting and you know when you're not doing it, what are some of your hobbies and interests, kind of like things you like to get away to kind of to clear your mind, or just like creative different outlets, or just everyday things that you like to do in your everyday life?
I like to spend a lot of time with family, and right now that means talking on the phone with like my brother and my mom and my dad and so I do a lot of like talking on the phone to the people that are closest to me.
Hmm.
And then I write music as just sort of my like more creative outlet.
Oh, nice.
I yeah. It's my like not that acting isn't fun because I think it's really fun, but it's like the fun part of acting is like the activities that you get to do with a character. If you're like, oh yeah, like on Yellowstone, I'm a character that gets to ride horses a lot, and you're like, sick. I get to learn to like do a whole bunch of shit on horseback. How fun is that?
Yeah.
Um, but like my fun hobby is like writing songs. And playing music, and that's something I do with my partner too, and we have a little like recording set up here and we just write shit. It's really fun.
Is that for
Um,
fun, kind of like an escape thing, or you plan on maybe releasing some things, or is this kind of just your own creative outlet in that sense?
I have a band that I release stuff with. Um, and yeah, it's just kind of my little like side thing. But I don't really tell a lot of people about it. I'm not really sure why, but it's just something that I do for fun.
Mhm. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great that you have other things, because like sometimes when people are just focused on one thing, you're losing out on experiences and just opening up your mind to other opportunities and things you could be good at. Like actors are not just good at acting. I'm sure there's other things in your life that you're good at. So that's really cool to hear that you express yourself and you have other outlets to go to.
Yeah, for sure. I also like every time I get a job, I'm like, well, this is probably going to be it for me. This is probably the last person that'll hire me. So I'm always trying to like find other shit, other skills to hone so I can be like, all right, time to get back into that service industry, or like time to start working on a ranch and like shoveling shit, like figure out a different way to make money. I just never think it's something that's gonna last. So I'm always just prepared to like move on to something
I
else.
love that because nothing's guaranteed in life. No matter what, you know what I mean? You never know what's going to happen. So maybe one day you have to be open to something different in you?
Yeah.
And heck,
Always
you're always
thinking
at Marshalls. Maybe you can be some creative director for Marshalls or something.
no, I try to avoid Marshalls at all costs, but
Eh,
who
Last
knows?
thing I wanted to ask you, what's on your wall? I'm curious. I've been looking at it, like the notes back there.
Those are poems that my partner Cameron uh writes. I'm in his office right now.
Uh-huh.
So he'll just like write poems by hand and then put them up. The walls are just covered in like his stuff.
That's
Um,
awesome. That's
but
like, you leave your kind of on the wall, right? It's like a daily thing you might come into, stumble into. It's like, what's on it today?
yeah, he's got a really good little creative space here. I should really follow suit.
Well, I think being with someone creative brings the best out of you and vice versa, in a lot of ways. So
Yeah.
that's a good match then.
Yeah.
I enjoyed really talking to you, Eden. This was so much fun.
Me
Thank you
too.
for opening up and sharing your perspectives and stories. Loved you in this role and the film. I just thought it was super interesting, and I'm getting on Yellowstone, so I'm now ready to see you ride horses.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was so nice talking to you.
Absolutely. Hope to catch up down the road and hear more.
Okay.
Maybe something about your music. Maybe you got
Yeah,
some brewing.
absolutely. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.